So far in 2024, we've seized just over 12,000 hydromorphone tablets.
The upward trend in diversion is something Mayor Josh Morgan says is evidence that clearly shows the status quo is not working.
When you put free narcotics on the street, criminals end up taking them and profiting off them, and it leads to an increase in the amount of drug-addicted people. Imagine that. If only someone could have prevented this.
Let's take a look.
London police unveiled the results of a significant drug bust today, worth more than $750,000. They also say thousands of the pills they seized ended up on the street through safe supply diversion. As Rita Ismail reports, the police chief calls that a growing concern.
For the first time, London police are speaking out about the diversion of drugs happening in this community.
Diverted safe supply is being resold into our community. It's being trafficked into other communities, and it is being used as currency in exchange for fentanyl, fueling the drug trade.
At a press conference today, Chief Trong was joined by the executive director of Intercommunity Health Center, which is one of several healthcare providers who prescribe controlled substances to the city's most vulnerable population.
Look at all those narcotics.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. How long do you suppose it took them to collect all that? A month? A year? Like, that's more than you'd even see in a pharmacy. Like, that's insane.
Well, and remember, folks, this isn't British Columbia. This is London, Ontario. And the initial investigation by Global News and the RCMP was out of BC when they were finding that these hydromorphone pills, that's what the safe supply stuff is, quote unquote safe supply.
PSAD. Right. Publicly supplied addictive drugs.
Yeah. That's what they found, is that people were actually stealing. You can't even really steal something that's free, but they were taking these and selling them to kids, and then using the money to go and buy, more illicit drugs like fentanyl. The other thing that they'll do is they'll just take them and then they'll trade them for other types of drugs like fentanyl. And then what those criminals will do is, they'll turn around and like sell that, and like it boggles the mind. I am just at a loss for words, where the federal government just thought, oh, we'll just put free narcotics on the street and then everything will get better.
Well, I think they thought that by providing pure drugs, it would be safer for people. Safer, right? I've said before in previous videos of ours that it doesn't really matter if a substance is coming from the pharmacy or the street. It still has the potential to kill you, because the dose is what makes the poison. So they're taking these safe drugs and giving them to people, but they're not encouraging treatment. They're not encouraging anything. Just here's your free hydromorphone, have fun, bye-bye. Like, there's no follow-up, there's no social workers involved, there's no police involved, there's no anybody involved. It's just, here, get your fix, see you later.
Well, and like all of these policies that the Trudeau government puts out, they do not do a full end-to-end analysis as to what could be the repercussions of these policies. They didn't take into account, crime. They didn't take into account that they're going to be competing against drug suppliers out there, and those drug suppliers are going to be kind of annoyed that the federal government is giving out free stuff and denying them their money. So guess what happened? They adapted.
Well, and here's something that I find just interesting, I suppose. I don't even know if that's the right word. But when I was a teenager, you didn't hear about naloxone kits. Pharmacies weren't giving them away for free. I didn't even know what naloxone was until I got to school and we used it in anesthesia. And And now there's ads everywhere on your Facebook, on Reddit. You hear them on the radio for, go to your pharmacy to pick up a free naloxone kit in case you come across somebody who's overdosed and needs help. I think that's a huge, huge shift from what life used to be like in Canada.
We take the potential for diversion seriously at the health center and have protocols to minimize the risk.
Those protocols include patients providing urine samples to ensure the medication they're being prescribed is in their system. If there's any indication that diversion is happening, that person is removed from the program. But despite those efforts, police revealed data today that indicated the number of safe supply prescription tablets seized has significantly increased in the last 5 years.
How are they going to know exactly how much of the hydromorphone an individual is taking? I mean, it's going to be excreted at different concentrations. So how can they say, okay, like Bob is taking all of his pills and Jill is only taking half of hers?
I think they're just trying to see that it's in their system.
Right, but that's my point. You can take half of them and then go, oh, it's in Jill's system. Okay, so she's obviously not diverting them. And meanwhile, she's diverting like 50% of them.
And hence the problem.
Right.
And that's why the police are finding all these issues. So I think this urine test, I think that's basically the best that they have in terms of trying to ensure that people are taking their addictive narcotics versus taking somebody else's addictive narcotics. And I'm laughing because it's so ridiculous.
But that's another point, is that hydromorphone, morphine, fentanyl, carfentanil, all these things are all related to each other. So are they checking like the urine for the metabolites, which may or may not be the same? I'm not a chemist, so I don't quite know. Bear with me here. Are they going to show up the same on a drug test? Or are you going to be able to go, yeah, that's fentanyl, yeah, that's hydromorphone? I don't know. I'm just kind of posing the question. If you are a chemist or a pharmacist or may have some knowledge of that, let us know in the comments, because I'd be very curious to have the answer to that question.
Who knows? But whatever they're checking for, it's obviously not foolproof, and it is obviously far from foolproof, given the amount of hydromorphone that is making its way into the general public outside of these safe supply sites.
So far in 2024, we've seized just over 12,000 hydromorphone tablets, the overwhelming majority of which, meaning all but 675, was in dilaudid 8 milligram form.
The upward trend in diversion is something Mayor Josh Morgan says is evidence that clearly shows the status quo is not working. In a statement to CTV News, the mayor says, while this is not a municipal government program, I fully support an immediate, comprehensive and full-scale review of existing protocol and urge those who administer these programs to work closely with London Police and the Middlesex London Health Unit to develop a better path forward. Along with the drugs, police also seized dozens of weapons, over 80 grand in cash, and say 50 people are facing hundreds of charges related to drug trafficking. Rita Ismail, CTV News.
I think that's a really good point that the mayor brought out. It sounds like it's the municipalities and to some extent the provinces, because they're responsible for healthcare, but it's the municipalities that are seeing the destruction and having to pick up the tab, if you will, in terms of crime and drug being on the streets and all that. And it's a federal government program. Yeah,
they have to absorb all the collateral damage that's being caused, and that ends up, having to be paid for at the municipal level.
Yeah, so this program that's being run by the federal government, the cost is being downloaded to the provinces and especially the municipalities. And beyond that, it's being downloaded to society.
Well, but this is what Justin Trudeau's government is really good at. They're really good at launching all these quote unquote programs and then finding ways to kind of skirt the cost of them and trying to pass them on to the provinces. And this is why you have provinces like Saskatchewan and Alberta saying, no, up yours, we're not doing that. And then the federal government puts on the shocked Pikachu face. And is surprised when, common sense people are saying, this doesn't make sense, so we're not going to do it. But think about that. Just over 12,000 tablets of hydromorphone, and that's in 6 months.
Yeah, just over 6 months. That's nuts.
So, you know, as they continue to pass this stuff out on the street, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And this is just London, everybody. Like, what's it like in Toronto? What's it like in Vancouver? What's it like in these other major cities with these sites that are handing out these tablets? That's the real question. And the other big question is, when can we get an election so we can put an end to these insane programs that put drugs on the streets instead of addicts in treatment centers?